Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right-hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation.
Hello?
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, Josh. Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you as well.
I'm Zach. I play drums. We got Tom here as well.
Hey, how's it going, Josh?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys very much for taking time to do this interview.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us.
Oh, not a problem. And, of course, this is a great time to be able to talk to you, of course, with the brand new album from Howling Giant, The Space Between Worlds, just came out this past Friday. I've had the chance to be able to have this album over the last month or so, and, you know, it's just, I really love the direction that you guys have gone in. I mean, over the course of what you guys have done over the last few years, it's great to see, like, a full-fledged LP coming out in this way and just, like, really showing off where you guys are at in 2019.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely a little bit of a different direction than some of the Black Hole Space Wizard stuff we did previously, but yeah, but it's been a lot of fun, and yeah, man, I'm excited about it.
Oh, that's awesome. So, with that in mind, I mean, how does it feel to finally have this album out?
Great, because we've been sitting on it for a while, you know? This is the first time I feel like that we've finished an album and actually waited an entire, like, cycle, you know, to get the records made, which I guess we're still kind of waiting on a little bit.
Yeah, still waiting a little bit, but especially considering, you know, we've been writing so much music for, like, the Black Hole Space Wizard series that we did, and during that process, we were kind of writing a lot of songs that didn't necessarily fit into that universe and that theme, and so those songs we really wanted to be able to release on this album and showcase. So some of these tunes we've been kind of working on for a long time, so it feels like this project's been, you know, in the works for really a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, too, because this album does feel almost kind of like a career retrospective so far, even though it's you know, like a full-fledged LP that's going on this time. But, you know, some of the songs just, I mean, it feels like it kind of harkens back to, like, what could be earlier songs. Some of it sounds like it's more brand new material. I mean, it's great to see that diversity going on in this album.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we tried to just grab a little bit of every element when we are writing, and just, we tend to write however we're feeling that day. You know, you can have something like Nomad with a big old kind of heavy, slow, trudging riff and some psychedelic stuff, or then something like Cybermancer and the Doomsday Express when we're just like, we need a punk jam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Man, and I feel like, you know, being able to do, you know, a little bit of everything is just kind of more fun for the full album listen. You don't necessarily just fall into one kind of, you know, very specific style. And that's always more fun to play, and it's definitely more fun to kind of write and record. So
yeah, I imagine that had to be a lot of fun to be able to do that as well. You know, just not just showing off that, you know, you're just focused on, like, one story, like what's been going on the past few years, but, you know, just being able to show off that whole range, you know, whether it's more the punk jams, whether it's the slow jams, you know, the double bass that's going on the album. I mean, there's so much that's going on here, and you know, for that great full album experience, I mean, it's something that you can really appreciate when you listen to it from start to finish.
well, that's awesome, man. I'm glad people are along for the ride. You know, sometimes the concern is if you're kind of all over the place with your, like, styles and approach, that can be hard to kind of hold on to. But I think, you know, as a writer and as a musician, it's definitely a lot more kind of fun to be able to explore just whatever you're into, like Zach said, in the moment. And so that's kind of what this album ended up being. And yeah, I'm stoked on it. Glad it's finally out.
Yeah, and I imagine that's also going to be fun in the live setting too, you know, just being able to branch off and show these different sides of the band.
Well, yeah, you can also kind of tailor your shows, you know, based on kind of energy when you have a lot of different styles. Some audiences really appreciate the doom kind of side of things and the slower and the trudging. But if we play some just bar that has no idea who we are, busting out some stuff that's a little higher energy is, like, really rewarding. So having those options to pull from really kind of helps with that live set.
Oh, I can absolutely imagine. So, you know, with that in mind, I mean, being able to show off lyrically and musically what you guys have been doing, I mean, has there been, like, any instrumentation changes that have been going on? I mean, I noticed, like, throughout the album, you know, it's just, like, there's, like, great use of, like, the organs and the synths and stuff like that. I mean, when you're doing, like, the guest stuff, I mean, was there, like, any instrumentation changes?
So we all just kind of stick to what we play, at least. Like, you know, Tom plays all the guitars, I'm playing all the drums, Sebastian plays bass. I guess Sebastian did play some acoustic guitar on Ghosts in the Well. But for the most part, you know, we stick to that, and we outsource the organ parts and piano and synths to our buddy Drew, which unfortunately we can't always really bring him with us live. But whenever we're in Texas, we come through. Sometimes we can snag him for a show or two.
Yeah, Drew's been a friend of ours since the college days, and we've been playing music with him for years. So, you know, he's been kind of following the Howling Giant saga since the beginning, and we've been sending him tracks. So even though he doesn't really play live with us all the time, he's been along for the ride since the first record. And he just has a great ear. We can basically write a song as a three-piece and kind of show him what melodies we want to come through, or give him an idea of what we're looking for, and he just usually kind of one-shot kills it and just throws down some organ and synth stuff, and it's just awesome.
And occasionally we'll just experiment with different things. Like in one of the other EPs, Black Hole Space Wizard Part 2, my wife, who records all of our stuff, also plays saxophone. So we had a little baritone saxophone in a section, or like we were even experimenting a little bit with Tom's mom, plays some flute and just trying stuff here and there, you know. So we always like to bring in, you know, different sounds and seeing what fits.
Yeah, and I was wondering about that too, you know, for the reasons that you just got done saying, because, you know, there's so many great, it sounds like there's so many great talented musicians and people that work in music that you're able to get these amazing parts from, you know, be it keys or woodwinds or, you know, whatever you're looking for. I mean, it's great to be able to outsource like that, because it really does add a dimension that you might not be able to do just between the three of you.
Exactly, and Nashville especially right now is just chock full of musicians, and like we have so many talented friends. Even just on the songwriting side of things, we learned a lot about, you know, what a traditional song form is and when to kind of stick to that and when to throw it out the window. Just from friends around town playing, you know, country or singer-songwriter or their indie rock bands, you know. So it's drawing that influence from everybody around us.
Yeah, and I would say at this point most of our friends don't necessarily play heavy music. So the fact that most of our friends are doing just singer-songwriter kind of stuff, not necessarily country, but a lot of times, like Zach said, even pop sort of thing. So just pulling in from a completely different genre entirely and just talking about song form and songwriting is super interesting, and it's really cool to kind of plug that into the heavier aspect or the heavier side of the musical world.
Oh yeah, I can totally imagine that too. I mean, with Nashville being such a legendary city when it comes to music, I mean, it's great to see that you can take those aspirations and ideas from other kinds of music and, you know, be able to take some kind of influence and put it into this heavier music that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man.
So with that in mind, I mean, I imagine it's got to be a great feeling, you know, with a full LP of music out now, you know, when you guys are going out and doing shows. I mean, it's got to be a good feeling to be able to freshen up the set list and get some new material out there.
Oh, definitely. And I think what's cool is at this stage in the game, we're still kind of figuring out what songs off the new record like kind of work, and by that I mean like what lands and what do people respond to. You know, we've been playing our other music for, you know, a few years now, and you get a pretty good idea of how a particular audience is going to respond to what new record coming out. It's like we're kind of starting that process over, where we're trying to kind of learn, you know what songs do people really respond to in a live setting, and what songs are, you know, really good but maybe more in a recording setting. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's giving us a chance to kind of feel out some new stuff and freshen up the set for sure.
So with that in mind, I mean, what is the current future plans going on with the band going forward?
Well, touring, I guess. We're looking to get out there as much as we can. We've got a split album we're working on right now, which is still kind of on the hush-hush, but early 2020, there'll be another cool release. So doing that, and then just trying to hit the road and spread the music around the world.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of that touring, but, you know, diving right back into the recording process for sure.
Oh, it's great to hear that too. Whether you're in the studio writing, whether you're out playing shows and stuff like that. I mean, it's great to see that mentality that you guys have. I mean, it just definitely sounds like that you're in it for the right reasons, making the music that you want to make, evolving when it feels right to evolve, and then, you know, just like picking out the right songs to be able to play live for the right audiences. I mean, you guys are going about this the right way, and it's great to see that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think it's all about trying to, you know, make sure that it's still fun and still kind of fresh and inspiring, and we're not really good at just kind of doing nothing. I feel like we're very much trying to kind of be busy in one way or another. So if that means like trying to tour more heavily or jumping back in the recording process, but it's just trying to stay busy and trying to make sure that it's really fun and still really creative. That's kind of the goal, I guess.
And in speaking of that, when it comes to the creativity, I mean, how did it feel to like lyrically not have to worry about a story that's already been established and then going forward with that, but being able to just focus song by song?
Well, I mean, even this album still has like a concept to it. I mean, it helps us, I would say, to have a story in place. So even though this isn't the same story as the Black Hole Space Wizard saga, the Space Between Worlds kind of has its own concept and its own story, and that really helps the writing process, I would say. Kind of makes some things more focused. And, you know, even though these individual songs, some of them feel very kind of separate and different from the other tracks, but they all kind of serve a purpose on the album. And being able to spend time in a new universe with a new story is, I mean, it's fun and it's refreshing. And it was nice to kind of take a step away for a moment from the other kind of universe we've been working on for, you know, years now.
Yeah, and I was wondering about that too. I was wondering if it was like a full-on concept album or not, because there were moments either lyrically or sometimes musically. I was just wondering if there was like some kind of connection between these songs, or if they were just a bunch of great songs that sounded great together. I mean, it's great to see that it was like actually a full-on concept with a new story.
Yeah, I mean, it just helps tie it together. And even if you don't have like a concept as a story, I think we're always trying to make each release feel like one piece of art, kind of. So even if it's not necessarily a concept story, we hope that a listener will take the time to listen to the whole record if they're able to. There's a reason we kind of put each song in that particular order, and we created the certain themes. It was very much kind of meant to be listened to in one chunk, if you have the time. And if not, the songs themselves are still super fun. So, you know.
Oh, totally. And I'm very much that album guy. I love being able to listen to an album from start to finish, because I like knowing where a band is at that particular time. You know, just like showing off like what songs were meant to be together. I mean, were they just writing out some filler to fill out the rest of the album? You know, a lot of instrumental tracks, like the diversity that's going on. I mean, there's so much that can be said by an album being released, and then when you actually put on a full-on concept album that does sound great, even when you just listen to songs separately, but should be listened to from start to finish, I think that's a great sign of a great album, and that's exactly what you guys have done.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks, man. Thanks for listening. Hell yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So, you know, with that in mind, I mean, obviously with either doing shows where fans are constantly coming back to see you guys, or you guys are playing in a new town, I mean, what is that like for you when you do have these concept pieces, but you are just playing like separate tracks at different times?
Well, I mean, I guess it's hard to say. When we're playing live, it's very much just playing songs to feed the live energy of that room. So even though, you know, we're playing those individual tracks and we're not necessarily telling the story of the concept with the live show, the hope is that we can kind of feed the energy in that room that night and inspire someone to buy a record, and then on their own time dive into the story behind it all, and kind of through that full album listen kind of get the idea of the concept. But yeah, in a live setting, it's very much just like trying to get a gauge on the energy in the room, and, you know, what's going to be fun to play and what's going to feel kind of satisfying as a listener.
Yeah, and that's absolutely a great way to go about it too. I mean, I think that would also be like a very rewarding for someone that's like checking you out for the first time at that live show, hearing the songs, just getting an idea and like wanting to check you out more, and then realizing that there's a full concept behind it too. I think that's a very rewarding thing, and I think you get a lot out of that.
Yeah, and for us too, playing live, it's just kind of presenting a sampler of every little bit of each little piece of an album for somebody, you know? It's just the songs we enjoy playing. So if they just dig one of the songs in particular, you know, well, we know which one you want to buy, you know?
So it seems silly, but it's almost like the show's the sales pitch.
Yeah.
You know, we're just like, we're a sampler platter, you know, and then come talk to us after the show. What did you like? What didn't you like? And if you're trying to buy an album, you know, we can help point you in the right direction.
Oh, totally. So, you know, with that in mind, and speaking of that sampler, Comet Ryder was released as a single before the album came out. What went about choosing that as the single?
I mean, there were a few reasons. One of which I think that song was the first one that we wrote for the album. So we felt like that kind of helped kind of define the direction. Even though it sounds different than a lot of the tracks on there, like that song is kind of what opened up, our ideas creatively for this record. So it felt kind of right to give the listener that first kind of entryway. Also, it's a little more kind of up-tempo and melodic, and, it's just kind of a fun jam, which I think is a good first impression that we want to have. And then when you're willing to dive in deeper, you can get into the heavier,
slightly more depressing tracks.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But we're not gonna, we got to start you out with some little tasty.
Yeah,
Comet Ryder,
lighthearted.
Yeah, and I definitely think that was the right approach to it too. I mean, whether I was playing that song on my show or just like listening to it for my own enjoyment on the album, I think it's an absolutely killer opener, and it's a great way to be able to show off that story. And then musically, I mean, going from Comet Ryder to Nomad, and then being able to go into Ghost in the Well, I mean, those 3 tracks alone really show off the diversity of the album just in the first 3 tracks, just showing off what the band is capable of.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you feel that way, and that was kind of the hope, was to, come out strong with something like Comet Ryder, but then introducing some of the more psych elements, and then like in Ghost in the Well, bringing that kind of lighter side to it. It's like we didn't want to release a record where everything just sounded like one definitive track.
Yeah. And I think everybody's attention spans have grown just shorter and shorter over the years, and you see a lot of people only dropping singles and stuff these days, really in the pop world.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know who's going to take the time to listen to your album. So hopefully in the beginning, if you can snag them in those first couple songs, they'll sit for the rest of the ride.
Well, that was also something to consider, though, as we were kind of at a certain point of, like, do we put all of the heavy, like, faster attention-keeping songs right away? But I think the more we recorded them, we realized that there does need to be a certain flow to the album, of course, yeah. So being able to hit someone with something like Comet Ryder gets that energy up, and there's a good opening point. But then the hope is that the listener can kind of, like, hang in for that ride, and you'll get to the songs like Ice Castle, even though they are mid-album. It's kind of in that order for a reason. So, but yeah, I love those first 3 tracks, and I love the flow of Comet Ryder into Nomad, especially those 2 tracks. I think is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. And yeah, just like what you said with midway through the album, I mean, when you got something like The River Guide and Ice Castle, which, it's just like, it's great to show that diversity off to it. And then, and then you hit it with that punk style with Cybermancer, and then you're going all the way to Stone Giant, which I think is just an excellent closer on the album. And it's funny that you do mention that, with some of the longer songs being towards the end of the album and the attention spans. I mean, I think for the people who really want to take the time to really be able to appreciate an album, appreciate a band in general, and they're able to listen to songs that are like 7-minute plus songs that you don't normally hear like on the radio or in the pop world, like you mentioned. But when you actually check out what you're doing in those 7+ minutes, it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I think, you kind of have to consider the situation that the listener is going to be in when they have the record on. And for me, I listen to a lot of records in the car when I'm driving, and, being able to make a record where you can just put it on and you can enjoy the whole thing and the whole ride for, if you're going into work or whatever, if you have 20 minutes or a half hour, or if you have that full, like, 45 minutes to an hour, just being able to listen to the whole thing and take the time to kind of digest that in one sitting is definitely the way. But it does take some commitment, for sure, when you have the 7-minute tracks.
Oh, very much so. And although, again, I think it's very rewarding, at least for someone of my personal taste, where you have so much diversity going on, and then you're able to show off in the last 3 tracks, at least 6-minute plus songs, and then getting into almost 8-minute long territory as well. I mean, I love that diversity in a band, whether you can write like a really short acoustic song, whether you're able to write a really cool punk song, whether you're able to write a longer, like kind of like a stoner feel that you guys have been able to pull off so very well. I mean, there's so much that's going on into this band, and there's so much that can really be digested with the stories that you're starting to tell now, whether you're going to be expanding upon any more stories or writing new ones going forward. I mean, there's so much to really divulge into, and, I think it's a perfect time to really get into this band. We're seeing where you guys are at right now.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Heck yeah. It was fun.
Yeah.
I'm happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, and glad we can play some of these a lot more live now, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, I gotta imagine that's gotta be a great feeling too. You know, like obviously with the previous material, I imagine that it sounds so great live, and I imagine that it just sounds like so set in stone now, like of like how it's supposed to go because of how many years that you guys have had behind it. But you know, just being able to refresh yourself with playing some different kinds of songs. You know, it's just like when the band is into the show that they're playing with some new material, I think that always makes for a more fun live show.
Totally, yeah. I mean, when we're playing older songs, because we've done it a bunch of times, like I know personally on drums, sometimes I'll just feel comfortable enough to experiment just a little bit, but like my focus when we're playing a brand new song is like, I better get this right, and I better play it like the record.
Well, yeah, it's like, man, it's always a balance too. It's like, yeah, that freshness is exciting, even though those older tracks are a lot more polished, you know. It's fun to play the new stuff, and there's that mix of like, this is fun and exciting because we haven't been playing it for years yet, but then there's the other side of that coin where we are like frantically trying to get it as tight and as polished as all the other tracks that we've been playing for years are. So you're kind of always balancing that, keeping things fresh, keeping it exciting, and just trying to polish that new stuff so that it sounds kind of on the same level as tracks we've been playing for like 3 years, 4 years now.
Yeah, and I imagine that's going to be absolutely coming in time. And if the record is anything to go off of, I know that they sound amazing live no matter what tracks that you're able to pull it off. And I know in time they will sound as great as the material that you guys have done for years, because this sounds like classic Howling Giant material in the making.
Hell yeah.
Oh, definitely. Well, you know, I think with that, I think that's an amazing note to end on. Thank you guys so very much for taking this time to be able to talk to me about everything that's going on in the world of Howling Giant right now. And of course, the Space Between Worlds right now is available since this past Friday on Blues Funeral Recordings. I love this album from start to finish. I love what's going on to it now. Now knowing that it is like a full-on concept album, I'm going to be able to appreciate it more when I go back into it and see how it's all interconnected. I love the music that's going behind it, and I really appreciate you guys taking this time to be able to talk to me about all of it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely, man. It was great chatting with you.
Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I hadn't brought up yet?
Well, we just got back from the latest tour, and we just had a beer released, and the album is out, so I guess just keep your eyes on the horizon.
Yeah, keep an eye on the old social media. We'll have some more tour dates coming soon.
Yeah, and we have more material that's going to be coming out soon, but unfortunately we can't talk about it in depth quite yet. But yeah, keep your eyes on us. We got more coming soon, and we're excited to share it all with you.